Forget the sterile quiet of a modern coffee shop or the muted hum of a contemporary bar. To step into a medieval tavern was to immerse oneself in a sensory explosion, a chaotic symphony of human life that served as the true heart of any medieval community. These weren't just places to grab a quick drink, they were vital social hubs, bustling news centers, impromptu courthouses, and often, the only refuge from the harsh realities of a challenging world. Imagine pushing open a heavy, creaking wooden door, often unlatched and welcoming. The immediate sensation would be a wave of warmth, emanating from a roaring central hearth that dominated the common room. This fire wasn't just for cooking, it was the primary source of heat, light, and a magnetic gathering point for all who entered. The air would be thick with a heady mix of aromas, the sweet, yeasty tang of ale, the savory scent of roasting meat or simmering pottage, the earthy notes of damp wool and unwashed bodies, and the ever-present sting of wood smoke. The soundscape was equally rich and overwhelming. The insistent clinking of tankards, whether pewter, wood, or even horn, punctuated a constant murmur of conversation. Laughter, often raucous and uninhibited, would intermingle with the occasional raised voice of a heated argument. The strumming of a minstrel's lute or the lively notes of a pipe might cut through the din, drawing a small, captivated audience. Above it all, the ever-present hum of human connection, a collective sigh of relief as patrons shed the day's burdens. The tavern keeper, host, confidant, and sometimes bouncer at the center of this vibrant chaos was the tavern keeper, a figure as vital to the community as the baker or the blacksmith. Often a seasoned and resilient individual, the keeper was far more than just a server. They were the brewer, or oversaw the brewing, the cook, the innkeeper, the money changer, and often, the local gossipmonger. They dispensed not just drinks and food, but also advice, solace, and occasionally, a stern warning. Their eyes missed little, and they often served as informal judges in petty disputes or even as sources of intelligence for local lords. Managing a diverse and often volatile clientele required a keen wit, a strong arm, and an even stronger sense of patience. The clientele, a tapestry of medieval life. One of the most striking aspects of the medieval tavern was its incredibly diverse clientele. Unlike some more exclusive establishments, the common tavern truly was a melting pot of medieval society. Peasants would gather after a grueling day in the fields, their worn faces etched with the strain of physical labor, seeking camaraderie and cheap ale. Merchants would haggle over prices in hushed tones, displaying their wares or discussing trade routes. Pilgrims, weary from long journeys, would seek a bed for the night and a hearty meal, their well-worn staves propped against the wall. Soldiers, on leave or in transit, would boast of their exploits, often prone to brawls fueled by drink and boredom. Even the occasional knight or nobleman, perhaps traveling incognito or simply seeking a taste of common life, might rub shoulders with the lesser folk, though their presence often commanded a different kind of respect, or fear. Women, too, had a notable presence. Brewsters, women who brewed and sold ale from their homes, often operated out of or supplied taverns. Other women served drinks, cooked, or were themselves patrons, though their reputation for visiting taverns varied greatly depending on their social standing and the locale. The menu, simple sustenance and liquid gold. The staple of any medieval tavern was, without doubt, ale. Brewed from malted barley, it was often thin, cloudy, and low in alcohol by modern standards, but it was generally safer to drink than water, which was often contaminated. Wine was available for those with more coin, particularly in regions where grapes were cultivated or easily imported. Cider, made from apples, was common in certain areas. Food was simple but essential. Crusty bread was ubiquitous, often serving as a trencher, an edible plate, upon which other foods were piled. Hearty bowls of pottage, a thick stew made from vegetables, grains, and whatever scraps of meat were available, were common, offering warmth and sustenance. Roasted meats, often tough and heavily spiced, were a luxury for special occasions or wealthier patrons. Don't expect forks, most people ate with their fingers, using knives to cut food and their own wits to avoid looking uncouth. Entertainment and information. The tavern as a medieval media hub. Beyond food and drink, taverns were vital centers of entertainment and information exchange. Simple games like dice, cards, and early forms of board games like backgammon were common. The crackling fire provided a focal point for storytelling, where local legends, heroic ballads, and bawdy tales were recounted. Traveling minstrels and jesters would often perform for their supper, their songs and jokes providing much-needed diversion. Crucially, the tavern was the primary source of news in an age without mass media. Rumors, proclamations, and news of distant wars or royal decrees would travel through these establishments, often embellished or distorted with each retelling. It was where people learned about new taxes, the success or failure of harvests, or the latest scandalous exploits of the local lord. The grimy reality, hygiene, crime, and regulations. Life in a medieval tavern wasn't always romantic. Hygiene was rudimentary at best. Spilled drinks, unwashed bodies, and the sheer volume of people meant the air was thick, and the floors were likely sticky. The constant influx of travelers could also mean the spread of diseases. Violence was a persistent threat. Alcohol-fueled arguments could quickly escalate into brawls involving knives or fists. Theft was common, and lone travelers were often targets. Authorities recognized the potential for disorder and enacted various laws and regulations, from setting prices for ale to imposing curfews or even forbidding certain games. Yet, for all their efforts, the tavern remained a place where rules were often bent, and sometimes, broken entirely. The enduring legacy. The medieval tavern, with its smoky rooms, boisterous laughter, and the constant hum of life, was more than just a building, it was an institution. It provided warmth, nourishment, and a vital social outlet in a world that often lacked comforts. It was a place where common folk rubbed shoulders with nobility, where news was exchanged, and where the daily grind could be momentarily forgotten over a shared tankard of ale. While the specifics have changed, the fundamental human need for community, conversation, and a good drink endures, a legacy directly inherited from the roaring hearths of the medieval tavern. What aspects of medieval tavern life do you find most surprising compared to today?